The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA.
The most shocking, stunning, insane trade in NBA history happens. It's absolutely the craziest NBA trade of all time. It is the craziest trade in Mavericks history for sure. And yeah, I called you because I am literally visiting a friend this weekend. I didn't bring any of my stuff with me, so this is not the normal recording. And I did not think that something this insane would happen. This is the only reason why I would be doing a show right now. And I was literally going to be gone for like 24 hours, basically. And here we are. But let's get into it. The Dallas Mavericks have traded Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris to the Lakers for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick. This is a trade that fundamentally changes the entire outlook of the franchise of the Dallas Mavericks. This is a trade that sends the organization in a complete different other direction. This is a trade that completely alters everything that you're doing as a franchise, as a team, as an organization, as a city, as a fan base, as everything. I mean, Slovenian fans, we appreciated everything you guys did for this show, but I guess you're going on to Locked On Lakers now. It is wild, and it started with Shams just tweeting it out, breaking, the Mavericks have traded, blah, blah, blah. And you thought it was fake. I thought it was fake. So many people thought it was fake. You thought it was fake. I was talking to you, Isaac, on the phone. And then Shams tweeted, yes, this is real. Sources tell ESPN, blah, blah, blah. It dropped out of nowhere. And apparently it dropped out of nowhere to Luka, too.
Yeah, that's the biggest shock for me. You have a generational talent. When you are roster building in the league, in any sports league, you are trying to find your cornerstone generational talent. The Mavericks found that in 2018 when they drafted Luka Doncic, and he's had one of the best starts to any career that you've seen in an NBA as far as accolades, all the stuff. You've already went to an NBA Finals, 2 Western Conference Finals, and for you to pull the plug on a generational talent at the age of 25 is something you just don't see. I mean, organizations go decades looking for a guy like Luka. Guys don't get traded like Luka unless it is something later on in their career or it's a dramatic force out. And immediately when it was starting to sink in that this is real, I was like, the Supermax was looming. Then this was something that Bill Duffy and Luka went to Nico and them and said, hey, like, thanks, but no thanks. And there was stuff behind the scenes that we just didn't know about. And of like, hey, and they were forcing their way out. We're not going to sign the Supermax. We'll ride this thing out till 2026 when the contract expires. But when Mark Stein, the most trusted, well-sourced Mavericks news person there is in the world, says that Luka did not know and Luka did not ask out. This is the ultimate. I mean, I'll just say this is not like this is probably not the most appropriate thing to say. This is the ultimate example of Nico Harrison pulling out his thing and laying it on the table and saying, I'm in charge. And buddy, but like you are in charge, but man, I mean, does Nico like go to the grocery for 2 weeks in Dallas? Like,
I sitting here having collected my thoughts for, 6 minutes. I cannot believe that Nico Harrison would be this stupid. I can't. Like, I cannot believe that he would trade Luka, whatever else, for Anthony Davis, who's going to be 32 in a couple of weeks, has had an history of injuries, to pair with Kyrie, who is 32, 33, has a history of injuries, Klay Thompson, and whatever they have right now, Lively with a history of injuries and all that. Plus, they only get 1 first-round pick. They get 1 kind of young, interesting player in Max Christie. I cannot believe Nico Harrison to be that dumb. That is the worst trade in NBA history, if you look at it, right? And so you start looking through some of the reasons, and McMahon tweeted the first one. Tim McMahon of ESPN said the Mavs had major concerns about moving forward with Luka Doncic due to his constant conditioning issues and looming commitment of another Supermax contract extension. The contract extension is a moot point. Everyone gets that deal. You have to play within the rules of the NBA. Just because a player is going to get the most money ever, you have to play that game. You have to pay that guy that money. That is the player that, like Isaac said, you look for decades. The Wizards are going to be bad for a decade to try and find someone remotely as close to that player, to Luka Doncic. And they won't find one because that type of player only comes around once every 10, 12 years. A Zion came and he didn't hit the mark. Wembanyama has come now, like 7 or 8 years after Luka, and we don't know if he's going to hit the mark, right? It does not happen this often. And then the other quote from Nico Harrison's going on right now, as far as some kind of reason for this trade. He said, "I believe that defense wins championships. I believe that getting an all-defensive center and an all-NBA player with a defensive mindset gives us a better chance. We're built to win now and in the future." That's not good enough. I cannot believe that would be the reason. There has to be something else. They have to know his left leg that he's been dealing with issues for over a year is completely cooked. They have to know something. But even if his leg is cooked, they just went to the finals last year and still made it happen. I cannot believe Nico Harrison to be this stupid and this dumb that there has to be some other reason. That's where I land.
Listen, we'll talk about Anthony Davis in a little bit.
Tomorrow. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Let's talk about Luka right now. And this is insane.
Yeah. I mean, we've been criticized, especially this year, probably the most from like Mavs fans in one single season about talking about Luka that we have so far, because there is no, and I mean, God, it just feels so weird saying like Mavs fans, but it's like it's no surprise that there is frustration across the board that Luka has not stayed in shape. All right.
Hey, breaking news: Anthony Davis waived his trade kicker. Just wanted to let you.
Thanks, AD. And you know that has been a never-ending thing for years now, seasons now, off seasons now, of Luka coming into shape, coming into season out of shape and all the stuff. That has been a frustrating thing, a tension thing. No, I'm just saying, I'm saying he's obviously, like, that is the source thing that you just read from McMahon.
It's not a good enough reason.
It's not a good enough reason at all. But I'm just saying, like, that has been, it's not like that is a surprising report. That has been known. No. And I think it's been a little bit more frustrating behind the scenes than what has been reported, of just how frustrating it has been seeing, hey, there's potential up here. We've talked about on the show before, like, do you want to be an all-time top 10 guy, or do you want to be like just an all-time great type of guy? And I know, because that's how good he is. Like, he is an all-time great guy. That's the difference.
That's the difference. You don't trade an all-time great guy.
He's already an NBA, in a basketball Hall of Famer. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame, maybe wearing a Lakers jersey in the Hall of Fame. And guys, I hate the Lakers. I hate them with every bone in my body. And the fact that I got to see Dorian Finney-Smith and Luka Doncic wear Lakers jerseys now, I feel like I'm just in hell. Like, this is just like, I believe in my Lord and Savior, and I believe that I'm going to be in heaven. But man, if there is an idea of what hell looks like, it is this. And there's so many frustrating angles. I mean, we're talking, for people outside of Dallas, like, Luka's on billboards, Luka's on, like, there's so much stuff. There's so much people like legitimately asking, how do I tell my kids this? Like, I'm like, my son doesn't know a ton about the Mavs so far. He's 5. He's 6, but it's just like, I gotta like tell him, like, Luka's not on the team anymore.
Isaac's so flabbergasted he forgot the age of his son.
Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's just icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59.
The Lakers have traded Anthony Davis in exchange for Luka Doncic.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast.
This is, I'm not even going to say like one of the most stunning trades in NBA history that I can think of, in like sports that I can think. We're obviously, this has happened, 20 minutes or a half hour ago. So a lot of details still emerging, which we will talk about as we get going here. We'll for days, but this was such a big deal, Andy. This trade again, Lakers moving AD and Christie and a 2029 first-round pick to Dallas. Jalen Hood-Schifino goes to Utah, along with, I believe, a couple of the Lakers' second-round picks for next year. I think those were Lakers picks that went out the door there. In exchange, and the Lakers get Maxi Kleber and Markieff Morris in addition to Luka.
Former Lakers champion Markieff Morris, who, it should be noted, the Lakers have not won an effing championship.
Right, it's true.
Since Markieff Morris left. Like, this is how big of a surprise this was. I mean, like, it's obviously seismic by definition. Part of the reason that it took us, maybe 20 to 30 minutes to go live is we were checking the living bleep out of this just to make sure that this wasn't like some massively orchestrated hack across NBA Twitter that basically everybody other than us was getting hacked on our Twitter accounts because apparently we're not important.
We're just not big. First of all, we'd like to welcome all of our new Slovenian followers to the show. I'm Brian. He's Andy. I basically needed to see it on TV. I was like, we're not starting a show until someone talks about this on television. And then, of course, they did in Shams at ESPN breaking the story. But like everybody was worried about exactly the same thing. What's your first reaction to this in terms of, just whatever, like what was your first reaction to this?
Once we were convinced that it was actually real?
Once we knew it was real, yes.
Who initiated it? I wanted to know how this came about, because when I say that this took everybody by surprise, I mean this took everyone by surprise. Like, we have text threads with people at 710 ESPN where Brian and I both appear regularly. We're part of the Locked On Network, NBA channel thread. There is no inkling, you see Tim McMahon and Brian Windhorst talking about it on ESPN right now. Like, nobody seemed to have the slightest indication that this was coming at all. So then it's starting to be reported that this was something that Dallas approached the Lakers about. I got to be honest, my first concern, or my immediate reaction, although I guess I'm giving it away when I say concern, is, what do the Mavericks know? Because you don't trade MVP caliber players just entering their prime.
Caliber players, MVP winners.
Luka's never won MVP.
Not one, but correct. I'm sorry, but
he's an NBA. He's an MVP caliber player just entering his prime. Like, he will be 26 in February. the biggest star they've had since Dirk Nowitzki, and by all accounts, they had been seemingly setting up for him to be the face of this franchise. My immediate reaction is, what does Dallas know? Like, what would lead Dallas to do this? Like, if the Lakers had approached Dallas about it first, that would at least follow a certain logic you'd expect. You're looking for the younger player. Anthony Davis is a better two-way player than Luka Doncic, but Luka is considered across, NBA punditry, I think NBA circles, the better overall player, and he's 6 years, 5 to 6 years younger
Luka's
than
25.
AD. Right. So it would feel more predictable if the Lakers had approached Dallas about this. That Dallas approached the Lakers, I can't lie, even with Luka's incredible talent, my immediate reaction was, what do they know and why?
Well, what they said, and this is the reporting from Tim, who is as dialed into the Mavericks as any human being can be. This is about them having, and Nico Harrison essentially said as much. This is about them believing that Luka is not reliable. That the Mavericks, the Lakers are going to have to pay Luka a lot, and they will, but they'll give him a regular max. The Mavericks were in, and Brian Windhorst broke this down really well on ESPN, so I need to make sure I'm crediting the people here. $350 million, 5-year, $350 million is what was coming to Luka, and they did not believe he was reliable enough to give him that contract. That is, by trading him, you are saying we do not believe that you are worth, back of the envelope math there. That's what, $75 million a year?
70.
70
if
million.
It's 5 and 350, that's 70 mil.
Okay. It's a lot.
Yes.
And so I apologize. It's like, I don't have this information from me because I wasn't prepared to look it up. This is a number that the Lakers are, not going to have to hit that supermax number. They're just going to pay him a ton of money, and they will. And so it makes me, I will say, we'll do this part first. It absolutely makes me nervous that Dallas was like, we don't want to do this. Hey, and apparently this all came together very quickly. What do you think? Luka, bad defensive player, skinny fat, as we saw the comment earlier, has a real conditioning issue that has been. This is not a secret.
No.
Okay.
It's very open.
So,
it's a very open secret, and
it's not an open. It's not. The Mavs have been leaning
right.
on him to get in shape and really get in like real shape for a long time. Now, so that's the part that concerns me.
I'll tell you really quickly what also concerns me. The Lakers' future willingness to make Luka do these sorts of things.
Sure, and we'll get to this in like what it means now versus what it means in the future. So we'll get to all this in a second. But like, here's the part that you look at and you say, okay, but some risk there. Luka Doncic is, arguably the second best player in the world. Like,
he's up there. He is up there.
He is stunningly good
yes.
at basketball in terms of the numbers that he puts up and the types of stuff that he does. I'm just bringing up the numbers here again. We're popping around so many things. I was not prepared.
Our heads are spinning, people.
Yeah, and so like going, I'm not totally sure that I'm going to be able to do this without, saying something that's going to get us in trouble with the network. He won Rookie of the Year in his first season, finished 4th in MVP's second season, 6th in his third season, 5th in his 4th season, 8th in his next season. Last season, he was 3rd and would have probably been, this year, had he not missed some games, would be somewhere higher in there. Or, right up there as an MVP candidate before he got hurt. He averages for his career. This year, he's averaging 34 points a game with 9 rebounds and a little over 9 rebounds and 9.8 assists. That's a triple-double every night with 30 points a game. He's 25 years old.
28. I'm seeing 28.
I'm sorry,
8 and 8.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking points per game. I'm sorry, that was last year. Averaged 34.
Right.
Last year,
28, 8
30, right. Last year, he averaged 34, 9, and almost 10. This year, he's averaging 28, 8, and 8, basically. That's remarkable production. And, as a 25, like if he stays in shape, if he takes care of his body, if he does like the Lakers went backwards with in their sort of generational clock, got a 25-year-old that you can now build stuff around and can go forward with this guy knowing he's your centerpiece. Is there risk? Sure. Do you get a chance to get a 25-year-old all NBA performer most days of the week? You do not. The next part of this that is a consideration, because we did a post-game show for this Knicks game. One of the things we talked about, Andy, was, man, the Lakers are 9 games over 500. They're looking pretty good. Like, what are they this year? This trade blows all of that up because, to me at least, particularly when you trade Christie and AD out the door, this is not a trade that makes you better now. The Lakers have opened up holes for themselves defensively that are going to be really hard to fill. And while they've gotten better offensively, assuming Luka, I think Luka and AD injury-wise are both on basically the same timeline for when they would come back. I don't think this helps them this year unless Pelinka's got more still to come, because the Lakers really need a center now. If they needed a center at 2:00 this afternoon, they desperately need one now.
I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, comedy. How about a Broadway show? Can't wait to take my kids to Broadway. The energy, the excitement, it's unforgettable. Seeing live performers, it's the best. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
It finally happened. De'Aaron Fox is now a Spur.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast.
So it just happened, everybody. Spurs, Kings. Yep, they got a deal done. It's a layered thing, but basically the bulk of it is the only thing you care about right now is, yes, De'Aaron Fox is a Spur. They now have a running mate for Victor Wembanyama, the perfect running mate, scoring guard, just entering his prime, double-figure scorer. Wanted to come to San Antonio, according to reports. I'm pretty sure he might say that when he gets introduced to the San Antonio press later on. But nevertheless, what a good time to be a Spurs fan. Jack, you have been the one that's been the most vocal, the most hyped about this. Not to say James wasn't, but there was one guy that fell out of the seat. It was you when it happened. Your first reaction.
Dude, man, I thought I was having a heart attack. Honestly, thought I was having a heart attack. I couldn't believe. Oh man, we got our other star, man. It's been saying it. He wants to be here. Go get him. Price doesn't matter, and I guess the price didn't matter to Sacramento because
I guess not.
My goodness. What a fleece job that was.
That was.
We didn't give up any of our players, either of the ATL picks, and we got rid of Zach Collins.
So, to give the details of what happened, as Jack's kind of putting pieces around. No Keldon going away, no Devin going away, no Jeremy going away, no Atlanta picks going away. You are getting De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings in this 3-team deal are going to get Zach LaVine, Sidi Sissoko, 3 first-round picks. Those picks or the 2025 Charlotte pick that you own, you're owned in 2027 because it can't happen in consecutive years. And remember when everybody was really mad that we traded chance to draft Rob Dillingham for that 2031 Minnesota pick that was unprotected, or top 2 protected, I think it was. Well, we got that. We sent that pick and got De'Aaron Fox. They also sent 3 second-round picks. Chicago's in 25, Denver's in 28, and their own, not their own, but Sacramento's own back to them in 2028. Yeah. The Bulls are getting Zach Collins, pure salary dump move, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own 2025 pick back from San Antonio this year. And I speculated that, if Chicago's in this, maybe they're getting their pick back. And
one of the things that I think Spurs fans will be very happy about, I know I am, and I know you two guys are, is no Steph Castle. Steph Castle stayed a Spur. That early reports that was a major sticking point with the Kings moving forward. Castle supposedly had to be in the deal. He is still a Spur. Way to go, Spurs GM Brandon Wright. This was a complete fleece job. I think.
Can we finally give him credit?
I've been giving him credit on this show. I really have. I have.
No, but if you pay attention, a lot of Spurs fans have been very upset with Brian Rowe.
Oh, yeah.
And even on draft day, when they traded that Dillingham pick away to Minnesota, everybody was very upset because a lot of fans have fallen in love with the idea of Rob Dillingham becoming a Spur at some point. And now we see the fruits of his labors and stacking, and you get a De'Aaron Fox, a proven entity in this league that has made an all-NBA team, that is an all-star, and that can be Victor Wembanyama's running mate for the next 10 years.
Yeah. Obviously, I think Spurs fans should be, and they better be happy about this deal. Again, the Spurs didn't do any major damage to the roster. Sad to see a guy like Trey Jones go, really solid guy, but I think he'll do well in Chicago. Hey, I'm trying to be nice here, James. Trying to be nice here.
It was so sad to see City leave.
So sad to see Zach Collins. City leave. I'm just kidding. But nevertheless, Jack, I want to start off with you. First of all, let's talk about the impact of this. Let's talk about the immediate impact. Let's talk about starting lineup. Where does Fox slot in? Because something's going to happen. Something's going to have to give. And then looking at CP3 right now.
Yeah, for me, the starters are easily Fox, Castle, Devin, Harrison, and Wemby. It's
easy. What about you?
You got to start letting those two play with each other, Fox and Castle,
and Wemby too. To get all three of those guys getting used to each other.
I mean, your best lineup is Wemby and Castle together on the floor.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they may ease things in with that because I still see Chris Paul starting for some reason. At least right now, maybe Castle supplants him in the future.
Sure.
And I'm not saying it's the lineup I would want. I'm just saying, knowing the Spurs, knowing how adverse they've been to even starting Castle this year, period. Like there was a stretch in time where we were like, why aren't they starting Steph Castle?
Yeah. And you saw how bad his numbers got. Chris Paul can come off the bench with no problem. It won't affect him whatsoever. We see the jump in numbers with Castle starting or off the bench.
I'm not disagreeing that he should be, or there's not a reasoning behind why he should be as well. I just know that there are a ton of potential still lingering things that the Spurs do that infuriate a lot of us, fans, media, etc., to where they are loyal. And they've made it almost feels like some promises were made when they signed Chris Paul about his role with this team.
Absolutely. And I'm looking at the deal though, James, and again, a fleece job. If this was the package, if this was the package that it took to get De'Aaron Fox, as of now, unless more details comes out, but according to the details that have been released, the Spurs clearly won this trade. They won it completely. Not even close. They got over on Sacramento. Chicago was just there. Chicago, just was a filler. But if you're looking at the main two teams, it's the Spurs. They won over. And look, Sacramento got what they needed to. They wanted according to reports, a win now player, a proven commodity, and they got that with Levine. They got that. So they got satisfied. But in the overall scheme, San Antonio won this deal hands down. Let's go back to Chris Paul, though. If he starts, and if you're going to go forward with that lineup, Jack, and you talk about the numbers for Castle, how they take a hit when he's off the bench, do you perhaps foresee the Spurs maybe tell CP3, yeah, hey, do you want to go elsewhere? We've seen the Spurs do this. LMA, DeMar DeRozan, the list goes on and on. Letting the veterans go. Yep. I can see that happening.
Without a doubt, this is not over. The fact that we kept our young core, both the Atlanta picks, this is not over. I foresee the Spurs making another move within the next 4 days because we still have glaring holes. We can't have Jeremy Sohan being our backup center anymore. No. It's a travesty to watch. Right. So this is not over. We still need pieces, and I think that there are Spurs players that will continue to be on the move this week.
James, it's almost like a match meeting Evan Fox in San Antonio. Everybody knows about the links that he has to San Antonio, his wife, the links to Texas, grew up near Houston, is an openly admitted he had his favorite player is Manu Ginobili, admitted that he went to the San Antonio Spurs games during the height of the Tim Duncan era. And of course, just fits exactly what this team needs moving forward. But the rebuild, how much of a jump start, or at least maybe I should say next level, does this take the rebuild to? Like hyperspace, like we're talking about hyperdrive, like Punch and Chewy and the Falcon, hit it, or we still need work to do?
It depends where they go from here between now and the trade deadline, because this team still has very obvious glaring holes. Yeah. You need floor spacing. You don't have good floor spacers on this team. Devin Vassell was 1 for 10 the other night from against Miami. So, like, your best floor spacer is Julian Champagnie for whatever reason. And that's just not good enough in the NBA. You got to surround Wemby with competent floor spacers that open it up for De'Aaron Fox to be able to attack the paint like that. You also need a big that can help protect Wemby, because we saw with Zubac and we've seen it with Sengun before and other players. They will take him down to the paint and they will get physical with him. Mm-hmm. And we've seen and this isn't a knock on Wemby. He put on 14 pounds of muscle this offseason. It's a process to put weight on a player of that size without doing detrimental harm that can cause injury to their feet and lower extremities. So you have to do it. You have to do it meticulously and with a plan. And they're doing that. And he's doing a great job. And he's put on a lot of strength. Mm-hmm. But Giannis didn't turn into Giannis overnight. He was a skinny guy when he came into the league too. And it took him about 5 years before he looked like the Greek freak, right? Yeah, so it's going to take time for this to develop. But until then, you got to get some protection for Wemby down low. You've got to go get a competent NBA big, because right now, especially with Zach Collins out the door, you've got
Fassi,
Mamu, Fassi, and Zohan are your bigs, and that's not good enough.